Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back. If you've ever thought about writing a book, we've got some insight for you. It doesn't matter whether it's fiction or nonfiction, somebody that pretty much, I'm going to say even literally, will hold your hand through the process because he is the man behind a full service publisher in NFB Publishing. A lot of moving parts, right down to marketing, which we're going to hit up in a little while. He's our professional of the year. Mark Pogodzinski is back with us. How you doing today, Mark?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. We got some instant feedback, and I'd like to start with that. An email we got somebody. Can we do that?
Sure, that'd be great.
Cool. Instant feedback, Steve at gmail.com is the best way to reach us. And this is from Ken in Cape Coral, Florida, who says, I'm considering writing a book about my career. Should I start with an outline of chapters? And do you help with audiobooks?
Outline's great for anything written. If you think back to your college days, you're supposed to have an outline before you start anything. And for like a memoir book like that, that's a good idea because you can have headings, and then under those headings, you put down just a couple of lines to remind yourself what you want to write about once you start going. And again, a book is a difficult thing to do. Writing a book is tough, and having a plan, a visual representation of where you want to go is a fantastic idea to start. I know a lot of authors who use them, and it's just helpful. Obviously, you go off on tangents and what you think works best, but having that visual in front of you as you're going along keeps you centered, keeps you focused, and it's a great idea. That's where you want to start. I think that's a great idea.
Is there, and I'm sure a lot of people are considering a memoir. Is there certain formulas for that? Certain things to keep in mind to keep it interesting? You know, what I find or consider interesting about, let's say, my career, you may think, oh, so what? Are there any like starting points or just even considerations for that?
You want to connect with the audience. So for that question about your job, I would start with an anecdote about myself, either in a forward or even opening chapter. And then maybe chapter 2, I go into the logistics of what I want to talk about in terms of the job. And then 3, you go back to an anecdote. And you can go back and forth. And I think that keeps the book moving. I think it keeps people interested who may not be interested in that particular job or career. And you make it personal. And I think it makes for better writing too, because you're writing about yourself, you're writing about what you like, and that comes through in the writing. We probably all read books, manuals, or things like that are stale. And you read a page and you're like, I have no idea what I just read. I have no memory of what I read. And that's not good. So I think the anecdote along with technical stuff is a great way to go about that particular memoir. And that's where that outline comes in handy. Chapter 1's about me, this story. Chapter 2, the logistics. Chapter 3, another story that maybe dovetails into that previous chapter. So the technical works into the anecdote and you get a nice flow. And I think even if someone who's not interested in that topic might pick it up, or it might be used as a teaching tool if someone's teaching that particular profession. So yeah, you know things that'll bore you when you're writing, and if you're bored writing, someone's going to be bored reading, and we don't want that.
I think back to all my years in radio. I considered a book, I have a friend that did one. And I try to think of what would be interesting and how I would do it. I'm just using that as an example, maybe to inspire or learn how this process works. But I just got a visual of different situations and if it would be helpful to write a paragraph about all those situations, stories, whatever you want to call them, that I've experienced that I think might be interesting. Again, I'm using me as an example. It could be a lawyer, could be talks about his cases, could be anybody. And then have those short paragraphs as a starting point and put them all together, then go through them and decide what should stay, what we should add, how we should add it. Does that sound like a reasonable, call it a starting point?
Yeah, and then I think in the back of your mind, you should have the purpose of your book.
Mm.
Uh, are you writing your book for entertainment purposes so people can laugh and like, oh my God, these stories about radio, these are amazing. You name drop a little bit and
Sure.
that's your goal. Or is your goal to help people break in? Or is your goal to help people understand the logistics behind what you're doing? I forget if the caller mentioned what profession they were thinking about.
No, I don't. Nope, don't see it here.
So again, like that should be in the back of your mind. Am I just writing a memoir to entertain people
Mm.
about, and my profession's part of it? Or is my goal to explain what I do? And I want people to understand what I do, the intricacies, because I think it's an overlooked thing, like the radio. I don't know many people who know what goes into it. You know, the need for quickness in responding to something when everything technically goes awry and the music's gone and it's dead air and like, all right, I got to come up with something
Oh,
now.
I have so many stories. Oh my gosh. Can I share one?
Sure.
She just brought back a memory. Dead air. Here we go. Um, I was 17, just started, and at 5:05, we had
In the
Howard
morning.
Cosell. No, for PM. I was in
Okay.
the right after high school. My mom would drive me to the radio station, and I was on with we'd have a feed from Howard Cosell. Don't know if you remember him from ABC Sports.
I do.
This is Howard Cosell, and this
Yes.
is how it went. So he would do a feature every day. So I'm brand new. I would do it for free. I'd find, I'm on the radio. Oh my gosh. So I'm in one room and the transmitter's in the other room, and you got to go around the whole station. You can see it through the glass. So Howard would come on, and a few times out of the month, we'd go off the air. And I'd be like, so I'd run out of the studio. I'd run into the other room. I was like, what do I do? Press the button on the transmitter. And it's a 10,000-watt transmitter. And it would come back on. I'm like, I go back into the studio. We go off again. I'm running around. Figured out that it was always Howard Cosell. And after some investigation, it turns out that he would phone in these reports from home. And every time his dog would bark loudly, it shut the transmitter off. And it took like a month to figure that out. Why we kept going off the air at like 5:05, 5:06 p.m. It was Howard Cosell's dog. I mean, you can't make that up. And that was just, one technical, nobody would ever realize. Nobody ever think that. I think it's unusual. I don't know if it's book worthy, but that's one of many
It's a
situations.
great story. As humanists, we can all relate to things going wrong and trying to panically figure it out in the
Sure.
few seconds we have before it totally blows up. And then, like I remember Howard Cosell, I remember Monday Night Football and all the
Mm.
sports, and I think it's hilarious that like he wouldn't take time to like put his dog somewhere. He would just do it. The dog's there, the dog barks, and everything goes awry. That he didn't. It really didn't matter to him that he was ruining stations
Not at
right and
all.
left, and people like yourself are trying to figure it out. And it's like, oh, my dog's here. Rest assured, I do put my dog somewhere else
Yeah.
for this interview.
And back then it was more formal, where since COVID, we do Zooms and people work from home, and it's all good. It's all good. But back then, no, you picture Howard Cosell with the tie on, the jacket, he's doing his sports report and all of that. No, he's just phoning in from home. And it's okay to have the dog bark. And he probably didn't know that it was shutting the transmitter off. Certain frequency in the dog's voice just triggered the thing to shut off. But one of many crazy things. Ken also said, do you help with audiobooks?
Yep. There's multiple things out there that you can help you with. We do work with a couple of voice actors that we recommend to produce the audiobook. Amazon has the program Audible, which works really well. And again, it's something as the author you want to think about. Like, do you want a jovial voice? Do you want someone serious? Some people, like voice actors from different parts of the country because their book is regional and they want that voice. So we worked with a couple people from Texas because they wanted that Texas twang and the reader's voice because that helped with the book. And so again, it's those little details which I think are fascinating and interesting to think about. Those are all part of it. And maybe he thinks an audio book is the best way to go about it. A lot of people enjoy them, and I think they're a great idea too.
Hmm. As I understand it, if you work with Amazon, um, you can have somebody read your audiobook, but you give a percentage or some kind of formula like that.
Yeah, Amazon's going to take their share because they're the one producing it and putting it out there for you, and they have their stable of people they work with. But you can also upload your own to the Amazon website and have it available through Audible. You can have your own website for an easy download. There are multiple ways to do it. I think one of the things people overlook is getting the right voice
Hmm.
for your book. Again, if it's funny and you want someone with who will do different voices for different parts, or someone who's very serious, um, it's a decision that you should make, and it should work best for you for what you want
Sure. And then the other decision could be you reading your own book. If you're comfortable with that, lots of coaches out there you can look up. Um, it's just another option, but you could do it on your own.
Yeah, a lot of the authors that we work with do not feel comfortable doing that.
Sure.
A couple of them are introverted, and hate the sound of your own voice, so they usually shy away from that. I do know of an AI program that will do it. You upload your book to the site as a PDF, and they scan it, and the AI voice has gotten a lot better from when I was younger.
Mm.
That war games type voice is long gone, and you can pick female, male, all sorts of different things, and the AI will generate the voice. Sometimes they mispronounce the words. Sometimes they don't read it quite correctly.
Mm.
And it's hard to edit that, but it's a cost effective way if you don't want to read your own book and don't want to hire an actor.
Call it cost effective, and not just because I'm in not the audiobook industry. I can do anything, related to that. However, one thing is missing: emotion. You'll
Yeah.
never get AI, not anytime soon, the type of emotion, and it's the energy that's put into it. A machine can't do that. Yeah, you might have a couple of paragraphs. Well, it's not bad, but then probably you'll feel that something's missing at some point, but cost effective.
Some of the ones I've heard, it randomly changes volume and
Wow.
emphasizes like odd words like and you're like, that's I don't know why the program did that. And again, editing those things once they're done is near impossible.
I'm right there with you. And I consider myself, after all these years, I can edit pretty much anything, but garbage in equals garbage out. You can't change certain things once they're there. I can take an and put it somewhere, but it has to be the right inflection of and or
Yeah.
whatever word, whatever it might be.
They technically know how to like splice that audio file to change certain words or even certain paragraphs. It's beyond my skill set, so I've never actually done it, but I know people have,
Hmm.
and I know it's been a pain in the neck.
Gotcha. Um, Marketing. We started with that last time we got together. Can we circle back on it?
Yeah, but you know about like the digital marketing and the idea that you have to have a budget before you start. Again, ideally, we would all like to be found by that awesome agent or whomever, and they're like, you know what, everything's free. I'm going to do this for the love of your work, and I believe in you, and you can pay me residuals when you hit it big 20 years from now, but unfortunately, that does not exist in the real world. And I think a lot of writers fail to realize that they write this great book, they go through the entire editing process, which is arduous from time to time, and then you come across this cost, and a lot of authors resist it off the bat. There's no way I'm paying extra for someone to market me. And they try to do it themselves in moderate success. But I do think a professional marketer, even if you can just pay for some advice,
Hmm.
is important. And I know it shouldn't be this way. We should all be found for the artists that we are, but it's just not that. That's not just the way of the world, and it is a cost. So I would highly recommend anyone who's writing a book to have that in the back of their mind. How much am I willing to spend after I'm done? If I have to hire an editor, after I'm done with the whole process of writing a book, how much am I willing to spend on marketing? And I think a fair amount is anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. especially if you want to get a toehold, especially if you want to make an impact with your work. I think that's the minimum. I know people who charge much more, and the
Mm.
results can be great, but they can also not be great. So I think you stay within your budget, obviously, but that 5,000, I think, is a good benchmark. So
And it's truly what you do with that budget or what the marketing professional does with it. Um, but you got to be careful. To your point, a friend of mine published a book in the metaphysical arena, and she connected with somebody and they wanted to turn it into a screenplay and potentially a movie.
oh,
And
okay.
she's pretty
And
sharp.
again, sometimes that you hear that and you're like, oh my God, yes, this is my dream come true. And you can continue with your story, but yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And she said exactly that. She was super excited. I remember her text. She sent me, a little bit more details. And I said, let me look into this for you. Because not that I'm always skeptical, but with this kind of stuff, I am.
Yeah.
She sent a couple of pages of the contract. And before I even could dig into it, I was busy. It was over a weekend. Monday, she sent me a text. She's like, "Yep, I looked deeper into it, and it's a scam." So,
Uh,
and of course, they were looking for money to start the process, et cetera, et cetera. So, just got to be careful. And again, I've mentioned it before with PR, which can get you exposure potentially on different types of media, maybe interviewed on certain shows, et cetera. Um, they take a retainer,
mhm.
typically take a retainer, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get exposure. So that's one you got to be careful with. And I have friends that do PR and they do some great work, but they can't guarantee.
Yeah.
They can't guarantee that this person wrote a book and they're going to get you on, a major TV show or a major production, whatever it might be. I gravitate toward social media being your friend. Um, Cost effective. You can target who you want, but it really depends on the book. It really depends on the book.
Like you say, you pay a certain amount of money, sometimes too much, and you get some exposure. That does not equate to sales. And to your idea, like things cost, then I get asked all the time about advances. Do you pay advances? Advances are fun, and like to get one is great, but it's an advance. It's not payment. So that advance comes out of your royalties eventually. So you get a payment up front, but
Mm,
that's not your money. That's you get again, your eyes go wide, like, oh my God, I'm gonna get a 5,000, $10,000 advance.
yep.
Well, that money's coming back out of your sales. So I don't like advances. I think they set the wrong tone, and you don't want to fake anybody. You don't want to lead anyone down the wrong path or misrepresent yourself. So, like what you said about that, the PR, I promise this, this, and this, but I am going to need $5,000 a month for 4 month minimum, and I'm going to need that up front. Like, oh, okay, and then you have these high hopes, and then you're let down,
Yep.
and it's a part of the business. So I would encourage people just to, like your friend, check it out before you do anything. With writers' rights, who owns the rights to your work? Especially if that scammer comes calling with that screenplay, who owns that? And that's another thing that I've found out that like a minor production company comes calling, like, oh man, Steve, you're fantastic. You wrote this book. We want to produce it. Here's a contract. We're going to pay you $10,000 for your rights. But if you don't look closely, you've signed over those rights for 20 years. And they can do whatever they want with it. They could sell it to another company. They could actually make it into a show. And so again, you don't have to be a lawyer,
Yeah,
but you
right.
just got to be careful what you sign.
Wow. Um, what would you say? Well, I guess I was going to ask the best direction to go in terms of marketing, but it really depends on the book. Let's say you're an executive, a CEO, and you wrote a book, or you lead a team, or maybe you're head of a charity. and you got a book that's got inspiration there. Part of me thinks LinkedIn. Start even before you finish the book. Start growing your connections. It's work. I get it. And when you get to that point, you may have an organic swell of interest for the book, and you can also advertise on LinkedIn, targeting the right kind of people. Over the years, LinkedIn has gotten more cost effective, and targeting is better. But I guess it really depends on the book. Children's book, you're not going on LinkedIn, you know?
I call it webbing. You build a web. One person
Mm,
leads to another, leads to another, and hopefully it grows to some place where you can see some sales. And with books, it ebbs and flows in terms of sales. Like it comes out and then you sell, we'll publish a book, it sells, it gets to like a top 5 on Amazon within a certain genre or category, and it's there for a month, and then it's number 450,000. These things happen. And again, like for your idea about the executive, what is that person's goal? Is he they want to be the next Tony Robbins? Is he using that book to create a brand for himself? Is he or is she writing that book just to help other people out? What
hmm
is the eventual goal? And I think that's an important part too.
Yep.
People, I, fiction writers just write a book because they have to write, or creativity. That example it's an interesting example. What do they want? Do they want a brand? Do they want to be giving lectures? And at the back, they have their book for sale and they sell it directly to the consumer. Are they looking to be a bestseller on Amazon? Are they looking to do book talks or book signings? All that goes into it. And then again, it'd be great if we could just all be creative and get paid for it. But it's just not, it just doesn't happen that way.
Sure. And you could be that CEO or somebody writing about their occupation, and it'd be great to sell books, of course. Who's going to say no? But maybe the ultimate is to have a book to give to clients, or one to give to, if you're a doctor, patients, or let's say you're pitching somebody. Let's say you're a doctor. And hey, by the way, if you're considering it, you want to read my book, here, take a free copy. They so there could be, a $10,000 cosmetic procedure on the line if it's a cosmetic surgeon. You just gave a book. What did you pay for it? It makes them feel more connected to you, and there's also credibility that comes with writing a book as well. So it really depends on, I guess, this is what I'm learning, your goal and what's your purpose for the book. Maybe
Mhm.
you're writing a book to inspire. You have a story, rags to riches, whatever it might be. Maybe there's a lesson in your book. I believe you nailed it there. What's your purpose? Why you're writing the book?
Like that, the doctor example, conventions. You go to a convention, you
Ah,
get a
yeah,
table. Okay, I'm so and so from this hospital. I've also written a book, and I'm also this. So I'm all these different things. And again, you're trying to market yourself or market your practice, or market your hospital. The
sure.
book is a marketing tool. It's not the main marketing tool, but you're using it. And I think that's a great way to use a book,
Mm.
in that instance.
Yeah, and how great does it sound? You know, Dr. Jones is an accomplished cosmetic surgeon. He's a speaker, author.
Author.
It does sound good. You can't deny that. I
It
just
gives you
looked up
one
at
more
the
word.
I looked at the time. We're out of time. I
Okay.
feel like I honestly, truly feel like we just got started. I'm sitting here like, oh, what else could we talk about? Oh, we're out of time. Um, if somebody's considering any of this, you're the go-to as our professional of the year. Best way to reach you, Mark.
We go to the website, nfbpublishing.com, try to streamline the process, and make it easier. And writing a book is hard. Publishing it should be not as hard. And that's where we come in. And if anyone has any questions, we're always here.
I have to say this. You are somebody that really puts your heart into every book that you publish and every author or aspiring author that you work with. And there truly is the difference. And you can even tell it from the titles on your website of the books that you published so far. You really care. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate the compliment. Have a fantastic day.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.